Whatever next, Unplugged. Conversations about making transformation more human, more honest, and more likely to stick. And here's my next guest, Declan Goodman, founder of Digital Mythology. Hey, Declan, great to have you on the Whatever Next Unplugged podcast.
Thanks, Lisa. Delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
This podcast is about lifting the lid on transformation, and you have a varied career in the transformation industry. What have you seen in that experience? Have you seen transformations failing?
Well, if you look at the statistics, the Gartners and McKinsey's, etc., we all know transformations fail more than they succeed. My experience in digital and tech is that, yes, it's still unfortunately the case. And over the years of my career, I reflected upon, why is that? I think the main reason for me, it comes back to the fact that transformation is about people. It's not about technology or systems. I have a deep interest in mythology as well, and ancient patterns of change of how civilizations over the history have embraced everything from floods to going from agriculture into more modern type civilizations. And what I found was when I read a lot of this material, transformation is nothing new to the human enterprise. And I find that tech, digital is just another form of transforming. So we also know that a lot of transformations are often difficult. It's not easy. So we've seen over history and throughout different mythology, the symbolism is that if it's worth doing and has to happen, it's not going to be easy. There's got to be a struggle. Like the great movies are written on the likes of mythology, like Star Wars is based on very deep mythological themes. And there was, epic battles and epic transformations had to happen before people moved into a place where it was, free and it was a place without oppression. Similarly, in tech, I found that. So I've worked on a lot of different digital transformation programs, as they're called, or initiatives, everything across a number of different industries as well. And what I found every time is there's plenty of tech experts and there's plenty of technologies that can do it, but that's not going to be where the hard part is. The hard part is getting the organization, the processes, the operating models, and the people to embrace transformation. That's the bit that I find is overlooked sometimes. We just have to get a little bit better at putting the people first when it comes to digital transformation.
You mentioned about looking at that and bringing that into transformation programs. What is it that you're saying to people that can help them have more successful transformations when they look at the people side?
Yeah, it's about just slowing down a little bit. I think, there's plenty of change management frameworks out there, right? There's AD for helping people and organizations adapt to change. There's plenty of tech frameworks out there. I do work in architecture. There's TOGAF. There's digital strategy frameworks. There's a lot. When it comes to change in tech and digital, I find the first thing that comes out of the box is a framework or a methodology. And they don't always work well together. They work for what they're built for, which is, taking a specific area of change and putting some control in place and governance and clarity of mind so that, when you follow this process, you've better risk of success, like use Prince or PMBOK, project manage things, because that's all. I like that because it's identifying patterns and it's identifying there are certain ways that are successful to do things and you can just avoid the pitfalls. How I normally approach it is people need to see where they fit in the story of transformation. That's the bit that's missing. So storytelling for digital transformation has been one of the biggest gaps I've seen throughout my whole career. In terms of approaching it, instead of bringing non-technical stakeholders, a methodology or a framework or a blueprint that looks very different to today, instead of bringing them things and maps and artifacts, what I suggest is you bring them a story. You explain to them, look, here's the story where we are today, right? We're in a swamp. We got technical debt. We're not too sure of what AI is going to mean to us. We have people challenges. We have cultural challenges where perhaps you're a multicultural organization. We have downstream issues with our business processes, etc. But the real story is we are a passionate workforce and we love what we're doing in general. The customers are expecting a lot from us. We have to understand how we can do this better. And we need each person in the organization to step up to do it. And I think that's often what happens is instead of business people hearing, look, we want you to be part of our digital transformation and we want to use tech to enable what you do in a more harmonious way. Instead of doing that, we come to them and say, hey, we got a new SAP replacement, or we have a system that's going to make your life better. I think one thing I've learned over the years is that most of us when we reach a certain age, realize that there is no real silver bullet. And that's why I like mythology as well, because mythology is all about storytelling. It's not really about fairy tales. It's about symbolism that's used to help people adapt to the threat of change, to the risk of uncertainty. All of these stories through mythology, from Pandora's box to Prometheus bringing the fire from the gods to Apollo coming down to walk amongst us. All of these different mythologies across the world have taught us one thing, is that humans pretty much respond the same way to transformation of certain kinds. So that's what I do. I reach into that toolkit and I use it in a quite a practical way. I develop a simple 3-pillar framework where before you go out and meet your business executives or your business leaders, take a bit of time to get the language right, use good metaphors, and give them a part to play in the story. It's worked really well. I think I've had really good feedback from clients on it, but also for me, it's really important that it's not about using the framework. It's about opening up the conversation to say, look, what's the story?
And how difficult is all of that to achieve? What's stopped us doing that in the past? I mean, we've all grown up as kids having stories. What is it that happens to us when we walk into an organization and we move away from storytelling and start to talk about the technical sides? What's behind that?
Well, that's a really interesting question, Lisa. I love how you framed that. And like even, your own book that you wrote, uh, the five lenses, I found that not terribly different to, this approach around storytelling. For me, I just think it comes down to the individual to start with. So technology isn't there to change people, but we've kind of been sold the line that it will. Uh, we've been sold that tech is the solution to the problem you have. And if you invest heavily in this tech or whatever, you're going to just have everybody's going to work more efficiently, all these positives. What's been missing, in my view, is first of all, that's the wrong way around, right? So tech doesn't solve business problems. What it does is it opens doors and enables business solutions, gives you options. It introduces a slightly different way of thinking with regards to today. What AI can do and what tech can do today is definitely going to create a mind shift where people are now starting to see, non-tech executives are now starting to see that actually there's a bit of empowerment going on, right? Now it's, well, I have my Claude or my little ChatGPT pal. I'm going to do a business case in about 4 minutes. And in about a week, I can prototype it. Now, you imagine what that's going to do. See, for me, that is beautiful. It's fantastic because it lets us all be directors of our own mini story now. We're able to change the story of our day to day. We're able to come in and say, look, management are saying we should use and adopt AI. Fine. Oh, I don't quite know enough about the tools, but you can vibe code now. You can talk to this thing and it'll do stuff for you, which is pretty special because I don't have to deal with other people on the other side of the world or deal with people in general to slow things down. The illusion that's presenting is that we're all becoming our own creators of our own experience in an organization. Why I say that's an illusion is because it's not really going to work that way. However, it is exciting. So my angle on this is AI is enabling us to be empowered to actually change our story where we fit within the organization by giving us a powerful set of tools that can actually produce outputs much, much faster than we're used to. That, of course, carries risk as well with it, right? What's going to make AI successful? It's going to bring tech back to empower individuals, to empower non-tech leaders to say, hey, I've always wanted to try this. Maybe we could have a go with it. And within a week or two, they can either rule it out or do something with it. So in other words, AI is helping make technology enablement much, much faster. And that's the way businesses should be operating. Whereas when I talk to clients, a lot of the pain is it just takes too long. Here we go. Another transformation program. The last one took 7 years, delivered nothing. This one's going to probably take 4 years and I'm not going to get, and all of that negativity, we're going to have to find a way to shake that off and move forward in the new world of AI, enabling business outcomes in a very short space of time with the person's role being central to that part of the story. It's exciting.
It is exciting. And, even in that answer there, the speed of storytelling is faster. The
Absolutely.
opportunity to find something out and change the story because the story isn't landing is faster. But where does that sit with the power of storytelling? What advice would you give people to have that thread of a story throughout the transformation that remains consistent? Because part of the challenge could be, I hear a story today, something is found out, and tomorrow the story completely changes. And then a
Absolutely.
new CIO turns up and the story changes
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Even if
Absolutely.
we've got stories, how do we hold on to them to really help us ground our transformation, not just be part of the chaos?
Yeah, that's really cool, actually, how you described that. It hasn't been a great run, storytelling in tech, right? Now, in other businesses like advertising, marketing, movie making, novel writing, storytelling has been the underpinning essence to you get the story right. People see a role they can play. People aspire to it. They'll move mountains. With regards to your question, one of the things I like to think here is a whole Netflix culture now where you have binge watching and you've got a series now. One thing that we can see is, think about it, they're short stories, right? And one day the guy might be climbing a mountain, the next day he's jumping off a bridge or whatever it's about. But I like this idea of a series because you can often run through and say, actually, I didn't like episode 4 or 7, but they dragged out episode 3 a bit long, but man, was the ending great, right? But what that does is it gives us a way to break up a journey into short or stories. And I think what that's advantage of that is that we can bring it back into the corporate world. So, for example, to your point, if you're heading up a finance transformation program and you want to know where should I transform, where's the most bang for buck? Is it compliance? Is it internal auditing? Is it over here in revenue accounting? Is it maybe capital investment management? Well, you don't have to wait 3 years to find out, right? You can use AI. So you break these into a story. Well, tell us the story today. Well, they hand this over to them. Yeah, but then the data's wrong. Okay, we have to go back again. And you imagine all of that described as a movie, right? I'm not saying I'm not trying to trivialize it. Like, in other words, your business process in your organization is actually like watching a movie, right? You've people knocking on the door, that's your customers. You've people coming in the back door supplying all of the stock. You have your workers, your people in the organization. Then you have the regulator, the tax man. It's a movie. You could imagine playing it as a movie. So what I like about this idea of what the Netflix has done is you don't have to watch a 3-4 hour movie anymore. You can break it up into shorter. And that's what I like about this storytelling, what AI can do. So you can basically you can come up with your own transformation series and you map out some short stories and you put them in front of your business executives or your leadership team and say, what would this look like if we really were to play it through? And you can do that a lot faster now. What AI is doing, and that's why it excites me so much, is it's enabling all of us to become storytellers again. I mean, you look at what's happening even on LinkedIn, right? Now I know there's a few things going on with AI slop and all that stuff, but AI is giving a lot of people a voice, especially people who maybe English is not their native language or they're not very technical, but they're able to say to AI, look, I have this concept, help me share it. Now, it'll help pull that concept together, but it's their original idea. This is what I see so empowering about AI and transformation. It's not so much about AI being used as the technology. I'm not talking about AI tech transforming your organization. I'm talking about using AI as a partner to help you tell the story of how the organization will and could look when you transform it.
I look at LinkedIn and the storytelling of everybody's posts has got a damn sight better than it was 12 months ago. And in some ways, AI is filling a vacuum that we didn't previously had. We weren't able to tell stories, many of us, before AI came along and helped us. So it's filling a gap. The other key thing when listening to you is I'm in a transformation. I'm running with a major team. It's significantly bent towards technology. We've got product managers, technical architects. I've got the training and development team. Who naturally fills the storytelling space? And are you saying we all need to become better storytellers, or are you saying your team needs to have a storyteller on it?
Yeah, isn't this wonderful? When we work in tech at our level, strategy and architecture and change management, digital transformation, a lot of people don't know what we do. As in, what do you do? Like, you don't write code, you don't test stuff, you don't really do business cases. So what do you do? And it's often a real challenge to explain to people what, for example, enterprise architecture, what do they actually do when you have solution architects and data architects and technical architects? And that's a whole podcast on that. But the storytelling piece is now becoming a bit more aware. It's a bit more awareness now. I think about 3 or 4 major American public institutions have appointed chief storytellers into their communications part of their business. In my view, to answer your question, I don't think it's one role, but I do think that there are heavy lifters in the role of storytelling. So I definitely think leadership at the leadership table. Every executive you have or leader, you need to send them on a storytelling uplift capability course or just understand how powerful storytelling is. Secondly, at the team level, it sort of isn't terribly different to this idea of, having a common set of values and a mission statement and working together as a strength and a high performing team. But to me, the bit that's slightly new is we want people to be able to speak up and have their own voice and say, actually, the way we've been doing, I mean, how many times have you sat at a business function and half the staff are saying the systems are rubbish and with no confidence in what's coming? Because every time it's done around in this organization, it's just a disaster. Business is not consulted. Tech give us something we don't really want, and then we have to use it. And all of that can be vented through the power of storytelling. For me as well, I think the main heavy lifters though would be the leadership team, but also enterprise architects, lead solution architects. I think directors of change or change managers, they tend to be, in my view, the most conventional type roles that do a lot of storytelling, because you have to bring people out of what they know and understand. You have to articulate an imaginative long-term target. You have to bring them toward that vision. Now, the other part of this is my expectation is that storytelling is going to become a more vital skill going forward. And with any kind of transformation, business transformation, digital transformation, or even overall organizational capability transformation, because there's this challenge going on at the moment is we know the old approach to digital transformation hasn't really worked that well. Significant budget overruns. I think it's 70% failure rate. We spoke about that at the beginning of this podcast. I think people know there's something wrong with the old ways of doing things. And that's why mythology is always a wonderful thing, because if you look at the great mythologies, the great symbolism being used across Greek or Eastern, Indian mythology, they're always about what's actually really possible, not where we think we can be. They're often a little bit really far out there, right? You got all of these mythical creatures and they're nothing like the human form, but we relate to them, right? It's like the Pegasus, we could just ride a horse and actually fly up to it's like we relate to that. And that's what I'm trying to do when we talk about storytelling and tech. AI is fantastic at, as we know, hallucinating and imagining things. So let it do that and give us the best operating model we could ever be as an organization. And then take it and just tame it down a little bit and turn it into our real transformation program. So lastly, if you don't mind me just sharing, an incredible way to engage people is through storytelling. And we all do it subconsciously. That Netflix docuseries you love, or that song that resonates with you, or the book you keep going back to, it's less about what key messages are in the book or the movie. It's more about how the story was told. And this is where the opportunity for digital transformation is. Instead of thinking about the bits you have to transform, we should talk about, okay, what is the overall story here? Like what will a finance team be doing in this story in 4 years from now when most of it's outsourced to BPO center because it makes sense because it's not our core business? Okay, so what is the role of compliance in the story when we get to our end game? And that is where I think the greatest opportunity is, that the moment, we've heard a lot about layoffs because of AI and all of this scary stuff going on, where I think there's going to be the pendulum swinging. That's just how it goes. Again, it's mythical, right? Mythology teaches us, when it was Shakespeare who said, there's a tide in the affairs of men, which when taken at its flood leads to great fortune. So, there's a tide right now. It's AI. Every vendor and their dog are out there flogging this stuff. And it's like executives have been told, you have a KPI. You need to use API. Like it's been pushed down. So there's a lot of tide at the moment, a flood, and everybody's swinging over that way. My expectation is it'll slow down when reality bites and we're going to swing back again. But what's going to be different this time is we've been empowered with this incredibly seductive reasoning engine that can take an idea, a concept, and turn it into poetry, play it back to us. We've not had that before. So that's what I talk about having these mini series is. You're going to be able to do transformation, not just at the micro level in an organization, but also at the broader macro level. That's the bit that we haven't had before.
Yeah. And that mini series, I think, is something for everyone listening to take away from the conversation. Through the conversation, you've talked about how important storytelling is. You've talked about why we've struggled to do it in the past. And you've shared with us that thing that we can all relate to, which is the Netflix series, and to see your transformation as a series that needs to pull together. So, Declan, thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for sharing your lived experience. And in lifting the lid on transformation, if we can become better storytellers, I also think that's helping us become more human and more honest, and transformations that stick. So thank you, Declan.
Thank you, Lisa. You're very welcome.
Whatever next, Unplugged. Conversations about making transformation more human, more honest, and more likely to stick. Find out more at whatevernextbook.com.